What's up, 8th grade? Mr. Agnos here. In this video, we are going to review the distributive property. This is something you first learned in 6th grade. You had a whole unit on in 7th grade, and now we're going to use it again in 8th grade. So I'm just going to dive into an example because I think once you see it, once you see it in action, that'll refresh your memory better than sort of me just trying to explain it. Okay, so it says use the distributive property to solve the equation. So first step that I always tell you guys is rewrite the problem. So I have 3 times the quantity x plus 3. That's how you say that. When you have something inside parentheses, we call it the quantity. And all of that is equal to 24. Okay, so what we are doing is we are multiplying x plus 3, the quantity, the whole thing, times 3. So the way that we can do this is by distributing the 3 to everyone inside the parentheses. So I sort of think of parentheses as the classroom, and inside the classroom I have students. I have an x and I have a 3. Okay, and on the outside I have this number, and each kid and this is my piece of candy. Each kid inside the classroom gets a piece of candy. So this student right here, they're going to get a piece of candy. And this student right here, they're going to get a piece of candy. Right? This is called distributing the 3. Distributing means to like pass out. So I'm distributing the candy to the 2 kids inside the classroom. And remember, when we distribute, when you have a number just right next to parentheses right there, that means multiplication. So this means 3 times x. Well, that's just 3x. Plus 3 times 3 is 9. And it still equals 24. So that's what it looks like to distribute. I have my classroom, which is inside the parentheses. I have 2 students inside, the x and the 3, and they each get a piece of the candy. Once we've got ahead and distributed, well, now we just have a 2-step equation. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the number that does not have the variable. I'm going to go kind of fast here because we've been doing this part for weeks now. My last step is to divide by 3. And we get that our variable is equal to 5. All right, really quick, one common mistake that students make is they will come up here and they will type in x equals 5. It's going to mark that wrong. It only wants the value of x. Okay, so make sure you're reading this part right here. So it only wants the 5. Got it. I'm going to do one more really quick because I know I went kind of fast there, but I'm going to do another one. 3 times the quantity x plus 4. I'll do it in green this time. So the x and the 4 are inside the classroom. The 3 is my candy. So I'm going to distribute a piece of candy to each kid inside the classroom. And remember, distributive means multiplication. We're multiplying. So I get 3 times x is just 3x, plus 3 times 4 is 12. And then you would go ahead and solve this equation from there. Okay, so that was really similar to what you guys saw last year in 7th grade and what you saw in 6th grade. This year we're going to use the distributive property in a new way. It's a technique called fraction busting, or eliminating fractions. So here I have an equation. I have 1 plus 1/7 x is equal to 9. And I know kids hate when they have a fraction in their equation. It just blows their mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the fraction. And the way we do that is by using the distributive property. I'm going to take everything on the left-hand side of my equation, put it in parentheses, and then I'm going to multiply it all by 7. Now remember, whatever I do to one side of the equation, I have to do to the other. So since I multiplied the left-hand side by 7, I'm going to multiply the right-hand side by 7. All right, why did I do this? Well, it's no coincidence that I chose the number 7 because that is the denominator of my fraction. So watch what happens when I distribute now, right? Because now I have two kids in the classroom. I have 1 and a 1/7 x. So first I go 7 times 1. Well, that's just 7. And now I have 7 times 1/7. Right? I'm actually going to write that out. I have 7 times 1/7. And then my x is equal to 63. Well, if I have 1/7 7 times, that's just 1, right? Another way of thinking about it is the 7s are going to cancel, right? If I multiply and divide by the same number, so I end up with just 7 plus x is equal to 63. This equation right here is going to have the exact same solution as my original equation in black up there. It's just it no longer has any fractions in it. And that makes kids very happy. So to solve this equation, since I'm adding 7, I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. 7 minus 7, those cancel. I get x is equal to 56. So I go up here and type in 56. Got it. So that is a technique called fraction busting. And the basic idea is you're going to look at your fraction and whatever the denominator is, whatever this number right there, that was supposed to be an arrow, whatever that number right there is, you're going to multiply both sides of your equation by that number. Now you have to put these parentheses here because everything is getting multiplied by 7. And that's where the distributive property comes in. And make sure that if you multiply by 7 on the left, you're going to multiply by 7 on the right. Okay, we're actually going to do another fraction busting example because I'm sure after that first one you are confused. So I'm going to skip to number 8. All right, this one looks even worse because we have fractions on both sides. No worries. I hate when they use z's. Z's tend to look like 2's. Why is it coming out that color? Oh, I'm using like the highlighter. So I have z over 6 plus 3 is equal to 5 minus z over 6. Okay, notice that I have two fractions, but both of the denominators are 6. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take everything on the left-hand side of my equation and multiply it by 6. And whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to take everything on the right-hand side and multiply it by 6. Now I'm going to go ahead and distribute. I get 6 times z over 6. I'm actually going to write it out this time. All right, so that was my first distribution, plus 6 times 3. So do you see how the z over 6 got multiplied by 6 and the 3 got multiplied by 6? And then I'm going to do the same thing on the right-hand side. I'm going to multiply the 5 by 6. So I can write that as 5 times 6 or 6 times 5. It's the same thing. So I'll write it as 6 times 5 minus, and then z over 6 is getting multiplied by 6. So there's my 6, and there's my z over 6. All right, the whole reason I did that, notice how there's a 6 everywhere. Notice how I now have a 6 here, a 6 here, a 6 here, and a 6 here. We distributed the 6 on the left and on the right, and the whole reason we did that is because now when I multiply and divide by the same number, they're going to cancel. So those cancel, and I'm left with just z. 6 times 3 is 18. Do you see how I no longer have a fraction on the left-hand side? And on the right-hand side, I have 30 minus The 6 over 6 are going to cancel, and I'm left with just a z. If I gave you this equation right here, it doesn't look nearly as scary as sort of this original, I was supposed to be in black, as this original equation did right here. Okay, this equation has variables on both sides. I have a single z right here, and I'm subtracting z over here. So I'm thinking if I add z to both sides, I'll get rid of the one on the right, and I'll have two z's on the left. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to add z over here, add z over here. Z plus z is 2z, right? I literally have two z's, plus 18. I still have my 30. If I have a minus z and then I add z, those cancel. So now I have a nice two-step equation. Step number one is subtract 18 from both sides. And I get 2z is equal to 12. And the last step is divide by 2 on both sides. And I get z is equal to 6. Got it. Okay, so that technique is called fraction busting, or it's called eliminating the fractions, either one, and it uses the distributive property to get rid of fractions, because generally when kids see fractions in equations, they freak out. All right, I'm going to guess that you're going to have some questions on this. So you're going to watch this video, right? That's like doing something for the first time. You're going to be confused. You're going to have questions. Then we'll go over, then I'll do some more examples in class, and we'll try, maybe I'll go a little slower, and we'll try and get your questions answered. You're not supposed to know how to do it perfectly the first time. Okay? This will be tough, but I think you guys can do it. Again, good job, guys. I will see you in class.